more in mind. I can do only one of them, or I can do both. The second one, Henry, is the one that you recommended to me that I checked out because you recommended it. So, do you have thoughts on that?
If you just do a short thing on it,
Oh, yeah, I can do a short thing on it.
explain
So,
why it's a woman warrior.
yeah,
Because
so
I think you got what I meant. You know,
yeah.
a lot of people
No,
wouldn't
absolutely,
see it that
absolutely. No,
way.
I was watching it. I was just like, oh yeah, that's smart. I love it. And like,
It'll
with
surprise
Bill,
Chuck. Chuck, we'll wait for
yeah.
this one.
Oh yeah, this is gonna
Yeah.
be fun. So Bill earlier was talking about like, one of his picks was like a choice because the character was very intelligent and very clever and like kind of, it's like a chess game type of
Hmm.
warrior where
Different
it's
ways to
like
fight.
Yeah.
different ways to fight, exactly. And this is a
Yeah.
really fun example of that. So the film that I want to talk about briefly is Argento's Phenomena, which I had not seen yet.
Oh,
And so
yes. Okay.
yes, God, I loved it. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Like I love Argento. I have not seen even close to all of his stuff yet. I'm kind of like watching one here and there until eventually I'll get through all of them because
That's
I've
a
loved
great one.
everything of his that I've ever seen. And
Yeah.
oh, I loved Phenomena. So that one was awesome. Henry and I were just kind of like chatting about it and just like, okay, well, for, the second take on this panel, it's like, do we want to add anything or anything? And I was like, oh, I could add another one. And he recommended that one. I watched it like immediately because I mean, not gonna lie, selling point was basically he was just like, oh, it had Jennifer Connelly, or like I looked it up and it had Jennifer Connelly, and I was just like, yes. I've had a crush on her for my entire life. Um, God, love her. Beautiful, wonderful, great actress.
Oh, she
Like,
is.
just I enjoy everything of hers that I've seen.
Mhm.
So that was a selling point, and also like the concept of the film in general was also a selling point. I was like, oh,
Mhm.
this sounds really fun. So I checked out Phenomena. Absolutely loved every second of it. It was a really really fun watch. So Phenomena is a Dario Argento film. Um, this one, oh gosh, the tab is reloading. Okay. So this one came out in 85. And so it's about a teenage girl who is she's American. Obviously her father, I guess, is Italian or Swiss. I'm not
Her
quite
father
sure.
is he's either Spanish or Italian, but he's like a world famous
Yeah,
artist and musician. And you know what's really
yeah, yeah,
funny?
yeah.
Real quick side note: I have a friend that I've known most of my life named Aria Novia. Aria Novi, that's really her name, and
That's a great
she
name.
plays death metal band bass, and she's 50 now
That's
or
awesome.
47. I've
The coolest dang people, Henry. Like
but
that's
I've known
awesome.
her since she was 15 years old, and
Wow.
and anyway, so
That's so
she's a
cool.
bass player in this death metal band. She's real cool. Her mom is an artist. Her mom is like 72, beautiful left wing activist. But the thing about her is when I first went to their house in 1991, there's these giant, wild, crazy paintings. And she's like,
Mhm.
oh, yeah, my father did those. Mr. I don't know his name. I'll just say Salvador
Yeah.
Novi. And her mom was like, yeah, he's some famous artist in Italy and Spain. And we're
And it turns
divorced.
out he's like some like crazy famous like artist or
Well,
something,
not
like
crazy famous, but enough to where you go, oh, because the work
well
was
known.
good. He's not well known, but it's just the work is great. And
Hmm.
the mom is basically saying, yeah, this is great, but he left us. It didn't work out.
Oh
But
no.
she's
But
still
still
he
keep the art because it's beautiful,
right.
right? Like
He's still Arya's father, and she keeps in touch with
hmm.
him. So
Yeah.
when I first not when I first yeah when I first saw Phenomena, because that was a year later, I did immediately think of Arya because the girl comes
Yeah.
from school, Jennifer Corvino, and they're like, "Oh, is your father so and so Corvino?" And he
Yeah,
does
yeah.
music, and I was like, "This," but yet she was raised in America, so yeah. Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah, so that's how the film starts is she's going to this girls' school in Switzerland, and all these girls are just like super intrigued by her because it's like she's the daughter of this like really famous guy. They all have a crush on him. They're just like, "Oh, he's so handsome. We love his movies," and like all of this stuff. Um and over time they end up bullying the shit out of her.
hmm
And I actually I was like I sent Henry a couple messages while I was watching this with like kind of my live reactions to it. I didn't go crazy with it because I was also just so engrossed because Argento is brilliant. but I got to this one point where they started just like being horrible to her and making fun of her because she was talking about all of these like weird things that were happening around her and how she was like psychic and stuff because like insects love her. Side note, there's also like a really popular this started as like an online serial. It's called Worm, and the protagonist has basically the same powers. And now, like, I was watching this, and I was just like, source of inspiration. So now I'm going to have to make
Mhm.
my wife watch it 'cause she's a huge fan of Worm. Oh God. So
That's
Wow.
wild.
fabulous.
That's
So these girls start bullying her because of that, and they're just like, oh, like, powers and stuff. Ah. And I was just like, man, I really want her to just pull a carry on these bitches. And then, like, a few seconds later, she summons
Plague
this
a
swarm
locust.
of flies, this enormous swarm of flies, and just unnerves the shit out of everybody and just
but you
like, don't fuck with me. And I was just like,
what's the best part of it is she says, I love you all. And they think she's gone
yes,
crazy and loves them,
right,
the students, but she's
right.
talking to the
She's
insect.
talking to the bugs. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that.
Because like her ability to like summon them has to do with her emotions. Clearly it's like connected. So like earlier on in the film, she meets this entomologist who basically takes care of her because she also sleepwalks. And so she has an incident where she's sleepwalking. These like guys pick her up and are very clearly having nefarious ideas in mind. It's horrible. Was really squicked by it. Ugh, she escapes from them, and the entomologist kind of, helps her, takes care of her, and he becomes a mentor figure for her. And it turns out that he's investigating like a crime where he's brought in because he can identify how long a body has been dead based on the situation with the bugs on it. It's like, oh, well, this is this type of fly and this is their larva and there's this many of them, so it's this generation, so this body has been dead for x number of days, weeks, or months. And it's just like, that's cool.
Mhm.
So she ends up partnering with him basically to try to help solve the crime, especially because her one friend at the school ends up becoming a victim. So she's just like, oh, I gotta like avenge her by like figuring out what happened and all of this stuff. um I lost my train of thought entirely. There was something I was trying to get to and I've lost it, but I'm just gonna keep going with the plot. Uh
No worries.
God. Sorry guys, ADHD, end of day. Brain does not work anymore. So she goes on all this to do this, and there's this one particular insect that he introduces to her, and the reason that she has to be the one to work with it is like, it can be like super super deadly, but of course the insects don't hurt her. Right, it was the thing about the emotions. So she insists that like, oh, they're not going to hurt me, bugs never hurt me, we're
Mhm.
friends, it's fine. And it turns out it's because she has this like psychic power, and basically the bugs react to her as if she's like giving off the like pheromones that you know make the mating calls happen
Which
and
is
all
a
this
great
stuff.
science fiction premise.
Yeah, it's really
Mm.
cool. It's really really cool. So then she
Wow.
uses this bug to locate a dead body basically. And so she gets to this house that she needs to go into and explore, and um ends up having to like nope on out of there. But it's basically like, okay, this is the place. We got the place now. We know this is where it's supposed to be. Uh and she ends up getting like harassed and chased after and everything. She has to escape and all of that. She ends up going back to the school. They want to like basically evaluate her for like being like psychotic or something because she's talking about, or it's in her journal. She's writing about having these
Mhm.
powers, and she's like writing a letter to her father or something like that. And she talks about that, and of course one of the girls finds it and she gets bullied for it, and the like headmistress is just like, oh, she's like crazy and sick and needs to be taken care of. um and like me watching that also, like as a neurodivergent person, it's like I see so much there with like disability and like um her reality that she's expressing. People don't understand it, but it's actually what's
Yeah.
happening in this film.
Well,
Like I don't think I have psychic powers, but
she's such a
people
Yeah.
don't believe you about
she's
these
such a
things.
loner.
She is,
and
yeah.
it's really portrays it really well the way.
Yeah, yeah. Like I honestly read her as like kind of like autistic coded because of the whole like weird interest in bugs. And it's like
Mm.
I
Hyper-focus.
related to her very strongly as a character. I was just like rooting for her the whole time. Including
Hey,
like
I did
I want
too,
her
and
to
I'm
pull
a
carry on
old
these
white
girls.
male.
I mean, she's just a really good character, like
Absolutely.
period. But especially me having been a teenage girl
Yeah.
who was, bullied and harassed for being a little bit weird or a lot weird. I was very weird. Um, and I do in fact like bugs. So there's that.
Yeah.
Same thing with animals.
God. So they want to like evaluate her and all of this stuff, and she's just like, no, I'm not crazy. I'm going to prove it to you and all of this. And ultimately they basically want to institutionalize her, and she's like, hell no. So she basically, through connections with her father and having like access to wealth and stuff, is going to leave. And then she goes to try to do that, and she's informed that she actually can't. I can't remember if it was a train or a flight. I think it was a flight. But there wouldn't be one until the next morning, basically. And she's just like, I got to get out of here because, like, I can't go back to the school because they think I'm crazy. And this, like, serial killer is targeting me now. I need to get the hell out of here. And she's like, well, what am I going to do now? And this woman approaches her and basically is like, oh, you can come stay with me. It's fine. And of course, that woman turns out to be, the serial killer or related to the serial killer.
Mm.
A little bit vague as to whether she's like the one doing the killing or her son is, but basically she has this son who is
A mess.
like a mess, like a total mess,
He's
like
got the
very
worst cleft
disordered,
palate
has
in
this
human history.
yeah, no, I just, God, that reveal when he turns around, you finally see his face that's like bug looking and like
He's thinking, "Don't hate me because I'm beautiful." I can't help it.
Oh God.
Poor guy.
And like I love monstrosity of like of people who you think are gonna be innocent, and it's like, oh,
Right.
his mother's like probably crazy and abusive.
That happens in
And
a lot of Argento's movies.
I know it does. It's a recurring thing and I love it. I'm a sucker for it. God. And it's like, because she's acting crazy. Like from the second that Connolly's character gets there, it's like this woman is not trustworthy. She's being super, super creepy and cagey. And she's just like, oh, we have to cover all these mirrors because it's upsetting for my son. And it's like, oh, is he gonna be like a weird autistic kid too or something? And it's like, no, he actually has a horrifying visage. So there's that. And she's like, okay, you need to like take this medication, and it's like obviously this is not going to go well, and she's insisting and being very, very creepy about it. And for whatever reason, her character, Connolly's character, does decide to like actually take it after all this insisting, and she's like, oh shit, this is poison. And basically like purges all of it, and tries to get out of the situation.
And there's some
And
Iron Maiden music in that
bananas. Yes. Oh God. And ultimately she has to like basically fight her way out of there. And it's this whole like there's so much going on at this point. I don't even know if I can
movie. You
keep
know,
all the
one of
details
my
straight.
favorite. Here's one of my favorite things about the
Yeah.
movie, because
Yeah, yeah.
I'm an animal lover.
Hmm.
When they kill Donald Pleasance and that monkey gets that razor blade and goes to get revenge.
Yes. Oh God, I didn't even mention that part earlier.
I mean, it was
God.
just like,
No,
this
I
is
loved that.
priceless.
I love that. Yeah, because her mentor ends up getting murdered, of course. And his animal companion here is furious about it
Yeah,
and
he
ends up
chases him in
ultimately
the
getting the
car.
revenge, and literally saves, Connolly's character there at the end. It's just like she's, this monkey character is just like, or chimpanzee character, is just like, you know what, fuck you, bitch, you killed my dad, basically. And
Yeah.
it's just
Oh,
like
wow.
razor blades her to death, and it's just like, oh, it's so good. It's
Oh,
so
wait.
good.
So that's one hell of a twist. It's kind of like, okay, I was waiting for the Deus Ex Machina to be coming from the
Yes.
bugs,
Yes,
not
yes,
not the monkey.
Right.
yes. See
Right.
also Chekhov's razor blade.
Oh, yes.
Oh, it was so good. I loved it. Like the climax of it was so good.
So
So
what you
good.
felt like
God, I
this
loved
was
it.
a fitting pick because
Yes.
she's fighting using her
Her
uh
psychic powers, yeah.
right,
And
right.
also her intelligence. Like she's
Yeah.
trying to outsmart and outplay and it's a very like, crime investigation detective-y kind of plot being done by a teenage girl who has psychic powers to control bugs.
Movie has a lot of layers.
It was dope. I
It
loved
could
it.
it could have been a mess, but I think he pulled it off.
It was really cool. Yeah. Like the premise of it, I was just like, okay, I can see this maybe working or maybe being kind of hokey. And then I was like, oh, it's Argento. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, let's give this a go. And then of course it was brilliant. I loved it. Really, really loved it. So that
what is
was
their other one you wanted to talk about?
my other one. I can talk about it now, or we can let Chuck do his next
Yeah, let's
one
let Chuck
first.
go. I want to hear his
Yeah,
voice.
yeah. Let me do mine because
Also,
I
please
would.
feel free to comment on Phenomena because I know you're a fan of it too. So just, oh God.
Yeah, and with Phenomena, I haven't seen it.
Oh, I thought you had seen
Really?
it.
No,
Really?
I am aware of it. I'm
Okay.
not sure if we have that
Please
one,
watch it. It is so good.
but
I bet Heather has
yeah.
it.
So
No,
good.
oh, we've got I think most of the Argento movies, but I'm
Mhm.
not sure she's seen it. I have not,
Mhm.
but I'm aware
Sounds like
of
a
it
date
and know of it.
night. Y'all need
Oh
to
yeah,
watch it together. It is so good.
no doubt. We got about a million date nights where
Nice.
we've got to watch about a million movies.
Yeah.
So
One
awesome.
of one of
But
my partners is a big Argento nut. So I just
I
mentioned that I was watching. I was like, "Oh, have you seen this one?" And they were just like, "Oh, this is my favorite." And had a fun chat about it. It was great.
that's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good because I don't mind going next with this one, but I would not want the show to end with it. But
That's
It
fair.
won't.
All right.
I'll do one
but my oh okay.
after you.
I was gonna say okay, cool.
I was after
So
you anyway.
okay, well okay. So my final one is Babs Johnson / Divine from Pink Flamingos.
A warrior
And I'm just
against
I'm
the
just thinking
world.
about the first time we talked about this. I'm like, oh
Yes.
man, we have to do this again. It's gonna be a trip. Oh my
Oh
God.
yeah.
All right, let's go.
Well, there were little details I forgot to mention, but for those of you out there who have not seen the film, um,
I still need to watch it, honestly, but
it is disgusting.
oh
Everyone needs to watch
man.
it, but it is
Yeah.
disgusting.
Yeah.
It's one of those flagship movies. I first saw it
Litmus
maybe in
test
the
movies.
litmus test
Yes,
movie.
litmus
Well,
test. Definitely litmus test.
in my early to mid, it was probably in the early to mid '80s when I first saw this film, and there
Wow.
was this grainy, crappy copy in a VHS in a video rental store in the town where I lived at the time.
Cool.
And so I thought, okay, this movie's reputation has preceded it for like years, and I'm finally going to get to see it. And so I grabbed this thing, I rented it, went home with it, and I was living at home at the time, and so we wanted to wait till my mom was asleep for obvious reasons. My best friend came over and he knew nothing about the movie, and we watched it, and I think my brother was there. I think my sister eventually came in and sat down and watched it, and we all just sat there with our jaws on the floor, and it became an obsession with me. I loved the way it looked. I loved the way it sounded.
Mhm.
I loved every single time something revolting happened. I was just like, yeah, yeah. And I just saw the movie as just this very this if you were a freak,
Mm.
you know,
Like in a
this was
sideshow.
kind of like this was kind of like a weirdo like me.
Yeah.
This was kind of like the movie that was like the flag you raised. And
Yeah.
and
Weird
just
and proud.
if you were an outsider, if you were just kind of living outside the norm, you know, this was for you.
That's cool.
And my brother was absolutely appalled, and just with this woman in a playpen screaming about eggs, and he was just. And
Jesus.
my best friend, like every time we walked by and saw this movie, it was just like, oh my God, you know, this movie never ceases. Every time we watch it,
Nice.
this movie never ceases to step on my brain.
God, I love movies like that. Yeah, it's
This was
fun.
one of those. And but historically, I have heard this. I've never heard it verified, but what I'm told in the early '70s, John Waters made this movie, and he kind of went down a list of the Hays codes and
Mhm.
all the censorship laws of the Hays office, and supposedly he went through the list and broke every single one of those rules.
That definitely sounds like something that John Waters would absolutely do.
Oh
So
yeah,
I'm willing to just assume it's fact. That's fine.
yeah, yeah.
I'm a
I'll
bad
just
scholar.
take it. I'll just take it as gospel, just
It's fine.
right
It's
off the
fine.
bat.
Headcanon accepted. That's what happened.
Yeah, and uh, and just the character, Babs Johnson, just cover the plot. Babs Johnson, aka the notorious Beauty Divine, lives in this little trailer in the middle of nowhere in Phoenix, Maryland, with her mother, who lives in a playpen, sits in a playpen all the time, and is
Edith.
completely obsessed with eggs. Edith Massey,
Edith Massey.
just the great Dreamland gang.
Babs, when's the Eggman coming?
Mary Vivian Pierce, Cotton, her
An
companion.
icon.
Oh
Mhm.
yes, and her son Crackers,
Oh
who
God.
looks like a member of the Manson family, straight up.
Oh
Um,
God.
and just the more you get to know them, the less down home, lovely they are. Just wow, you just got a very weird thing going on in the shed in the backyard with his chickens. And
Jeez.
Oh God.
but
Oh no.
but anyway, so they're basically, Divine is kind of lying low because she has this reputation as the filthiest person alive, and she's in all the national tabloids. But
Mhm.
Connie and Raymond Marble, played by Mink Stoll and David Lockery, two more
Rest
Waters
in peace.
regulars. Yeah,
Yeah.
R.I.P. They kind of find out that Divine is out there, and they are very jealous of her reputation and want to usurp it. And they are kind of more ritzy, kind of suburbanite people who have this nice house, and I guess that I don't know, and they kind of run a black market baby ring in their basement where they kidnap these women, and Channing, their very fertile butler, impregnates them, and they die in childbirth. But but their whole thing is wanting to pretty much usurp Divine in her
One up her.
position. And really it's kind of funny with these kind of upscale people battling this person in a trailer. There always seems to be kind of a class divide in a lot of Wars movies. And I
Yeah.
feel like it's really up front here. It just, I never initially looked at that, but I think there's very much like a class war thing going on.
Hmm.
And, but,
We love class consciousness.
oh yeah, big on the class consciousness. But,
Yeah.
so they have this big overture where they basically go out of their way to email Babs a turd, and that's like a declaration of war. And from then on, she is dead set on absolutely destroying these people. And throughout this whole thing, there's this battle that goes back and forth. And at one point, she's got her birthday party happening, and there are all these folks, all these maniacs and freaks just hanging out at this trailer partying. And the marbles sneak in and they get a look at them, and then they run out, and then they call the police. The police come to investigate. Divine and her crew hide behind the trailer. The cops come around. They all come flying out and they kill and eat the cops. And it's like, wait a minute, this is not just someone this is not just someone with an unseemly lifestyle.
Oh
This
no.
is someone practicing cannibalism. And yeah, the ante just goes up and up and up from there. But
Hmm.
it's just like I don't know, just that you're going to go to that extreme, and that you've got this character who goes ultimately to cannibalism and tarring and feathering and God knows
Mm.
what else, just to destroy her opponents, is I don't know, just kind of marvelous, kind of,
Total nihilism.
yeah, nihilism and kind of a feel good feeling.
Feel
I
good nihilism.
feel good. Okay, so we've got catchphrases up the yin yang here tonight. We've got 1800s therapy, and then we've got feel good nihilism.
Oh yeah, I'm writing them down.
You are, and I am.
So, what is your verdict on this masterpiece?
Oh, it's a
Paul,
masterpiece.
there you go.
It's
Is it your favorite Waters movie?
yes.
Okay.
Heather and
Nice.
I kind of Heather and I kind of go back and forth on it. I think it's either with her, it's either Female Trouble or Desperate Living. With me, it's Pink Flamingos all the way.
Yeah,
Nice.
Desperate Living is not Desperate Living. That I love that one. Female Trouble is the one I get the most. It just cracks me up. It's hilarious. I find everything about it hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd like to
I
go.
love them all, but
Yeah, I finally seen all of his movies that I know of.
Nice.
uh,
So
I think Eat Your Makeup is the one that I haven't seen, but other than that, I've seen them all.
yeah,
Sounds like you need to finish that John Waters collection then.
because I finally saw
Mhm.
Peckers. That was the last one I had not seen. So,
Yeah.
um, I can't remember which of one of us is going to wrap it up, Galen, or both, or
Well, I have one more and you have
okay.
one more,
Well, go
and
ahead.
you know what my one more is. So what do you think?
Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. All right. Cool. I'll go, and then you can wrap this up. So my last one, and I will try to keep this relatively short because I definitely failed at keeping phenomena short. Oops. Um,
Okay.
utterly failed at that. Just had to rave about it because first watch, very fresh in my brain, loved every second of it, just had to rave. Um
Yeah.
so my last pick is actually a very recent film. This one came out in 2022, and that one is The Woman King. And I was really excited about this one and Phenomena as well, because like earlier in our kind of like session here talking about this topic, we talked about how like a lot of the films that we were initially talking about discussing for this series were East Asian films. And I was really excited for Phenomena because it's a European film, so that's a little bit different. And then The Woman King is an American film, and it is set in Africa. So it was really cool to me to have like a representation of women warriors in an African culture, specifically the historical kingdom of Dahomey. And I really, really enjoyed that. I loved the film. It was controversial when it came out. It didn't do nearly as well as I feel like it really should have because, like, criticism that I get aside, it was just a really damn good film. Entertaining from beginning to end. I was super on board with it. Viola Davis is just God amazing in it. Honestly, all of the actors in it were amazing. But basically the story is a telling that is focusing on the Agoje, who were a group of women warriors in the kingdom of Dahomey, and so they're the like female half of the military. Um, and they lived in the palace with the king, away from like any men other than the eunuchs who also were servants there and worked there. Um, and they're very, very respected and revered in this culture because they are the baddest, most just ridiculously powerful and dangerous human beings on the continent and in the world. Honestly, like God, they're you do not want to piss them off. They know creative ways to kill you, and they will do it very efficiently, and you cannot stop them. until you actually take someone down, and even then there's more, you know. The film opens with the Oyo tribe kingdom group who kidnapped some of their people from Dahomey, have these captives, and they're just, you know, sitting around the fire, the men are, and you just you like see like the grass is shifting, stuff's going on, the guy goes to investigate and they all laugh, they're like, oh, it was nothing, it's fine. And then you just see Viola Davis rising out of this tall grass with her sword like ready to go, and then you see more women just popping up out of the grass, and there's like, you know, like maybe a dozen plus of them, and you're just like, oh, these guys are so fucked. And she's just like, all right, go get them. And they, you know, they go, they charge into battle. It like the film opens with this just bloody fight scene, and it is so good.
Wow.
And as you go on, you learn that you learn about like the cultural context and everything. They rescue the women who've been kidnapped, those who made it. And these women were being kidnapped to be sold into slavery, because that's what's going on historically during this time. And the Oyo and also Dahomey would sell people into slavery.
Yeah,
And
Dahomey, yeah. They sold their own
yeah,
people.
yeah. So Ouidah is the port in what is now Benin, where that was like the last stop at the end of this road that people who would then become enslaved and sent over to the Americas, that's where a lot of them left from. It was kind of like one of the most important ports for that part of the transatlantic slave trade. And so one of the points of conflict in the film is that the king of Dahomey, King Gezo, who is played by John Boyega, and oh my God, like he did so well in that role, I literally didn't recognize him. And then the credits rolled, and I was just like, oh my God. And I was just like delighted. I love it when I get so into an actor's performance that I literally don't even realize who I'm looking at until I see their name in the credits. And I'm just like, oh my God, that was John Boyega. And that was one of those.
It's good.
Just phenomenal. So the real life historical King Gezo did not end the practice of selling people into slavery, but in the film, in the film, he does decide to do that because Viola Davis's character, um, oh wow, my brain is blanking. What is her character's name? Nanisca is trying to convince him, you know, this is really bad. We cannot just keep on doing this. We need to find another way to protect our sovereignty as a nation and prosper and have our wealth. Why not sell palm oil, which is kind of one of those oh God things in retrospect, but I suppose when it's a choice between environmental damage and freaking chattel slavery, you pick your battles.
Yeah.
I get it. Absolutely get it. 100%.
Right.
So she's trying to persuade him to basically stop selling people into slavery. And basically they're paying tribute to the Oyo tribe kingdom, and they want to get out of that and have more power and be able to protect their own people and not worry about being invaded or, you know, having to defend themselves or anything like that. And so that's kind of like the kind of like what's going on, like kind of big picture wise. Then there's also conflicts and plot going on with the interpersonal relationships among the characters, because one, the reason that Nanisca is so intense about this is she was actually captured and brutally raped repeatedly by this guy who is actually the leader of the Oyo. And she sees him again as it's this traumatic thing. He has this like earring that she recognizes because, you know, she like fixated on that while that was going on, so she wouldn't have to see like, you know, his whole face the whole time, like, oh God. And that was hard to watch. And so she understands the brutality of what's going on, and she doesn't want human beings to be subjected to that, whether they're from her own people or otherwise. Also going on during all of this, our other major protagonist, who is named Nawi, and she's portrayed by, this is actually this actress's debut role, and she was amazing. God, I can't wait to see more of her work. Fuso Ndedu. And so she was phenomenal. amazing. And so Nawi is this young woman who is 19. She comes from a family that is, I guess, probably, I'm guessing, fairly average for within Dahomey. You know, they have their home and everything, they have to work, and her father wants to sell her into marriage
Mm.
with an old man who is wealthy and owns a lot of palm trees. So, and she's basically just like, no, screw this. Especially because he's very like just garbage to her when they meet for the first time. He just starts being very presumptive about like having her work. And she doesn't like speak to him in response. And he's like, do you not speak to your husband? And he slaps her. And she basically, you know, fights back. And her father is just like, okay, you know what? I've had it. I'm giving you to the king. I'm done. I'm not trying to, you're worthless, basically. And she's like, well, fine. I wanted to end up here anyway, because she really wants to become an Agoge, because she's, you know, seen what they do. She's heard all the stories. She really admires them. She's like, that's a much better life for me than anything to do with just being married off to some abusive, like, piece of shit.
Mhm.
So she then goes through the training. She ends up succeeding in that, she and her friends that she makes there. And as it turns out, Nanisca, when she was raped, conceived a child and had to hide and give birth to that child in secret. And her friend helps her with that. And as it turns out, Nawi is actually that baby.
Mm.
And so
Mm.
you've got this general and this trainee, and actually their mother-daughter, like biologically mother and daughter.
Mm.
And it's like, you know, this whole like thing of like the gods bringing them back together. And it's such a beautiful story in that regard. So it's just really cool. So like with the women warriors theme, it's like you've got the, you know, this group of, based on a historical actual faction of badass female warriors that actually existed.
Right.
It's the fact that you get to see that in an African culture, but also it's not portrayed in like a like exoticizing way. It's very humanizing. It treats them as real people. It shows a lot of aspects of the culture, not just, oh, these are these like, you know, brutal, like dangerous women or whatever. It's like you also see them participating in culture, helping each other, you know, talking to each other. There's the spirituality, it is beautiful. Um, and you see it through multiple characters, and it's just, it is such a cool movie. It is such a cool movie.
Mm.
I again do get the criticism of people, specifically like some whenever there's a movie like this and it gets a lot of criticism, I'm like, how much of this is actually you being racist and misogynistic, and how much of this is actually you
Yeah.
have a point?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm always
that's it.
very like, whenever people start talking about movies like this, but I have seen legitimate criticism that it's a little bit ahistorical. However, the focus is not on creating like a one-to-one, this is exactly how it happened. The focus is on telling a story about these amazing women who history has not given nearly as much credit as they deserve. That
Mm.
was the goal of the making of this film. And also, you know, like Henry was talking before about like blaxploitation in the 70s, being like, okay, well, maybe this isn't the best, but also it gave people an opportunity to see themselves in these films.
Mhm.
And you know, The Woman King is one of those films that a lot of Black women watched that and were just like, hell yes, like look at these women, look at this culture, look at, you know, like where, you know, where they came from, like as people. And that's so important.
Mhm.
The reason that I was so excited to see this was actually one of my best friends who is a Black woman was just like, Kaylin, you need to see this movie. Kaylin, you need to see this movie. You're gonna love it. And you know, we talked about it, and like she was just like, listen, this is the best dang movie, you're going to love it. Viola Davis was absolutely snubbed in the awards for this role, and like she was, honestly, her performance was perfect. It was beautiful.
Mm.
And just like for me personally, like the fact that I have so many people in my life, so many friends for whom this representation is important, and especially for one of my best friends who I've known for more than half my life, getting to see like where we've come from in representation matters, and then seeing like a movie like this, it's just like there needs to be more of this. There really, really does. So,
Absolutely.
Mhm.
you know, as far as I'm concerned, the pros of this film and the things that it did well far outweigh the cons. And I feel like we as an audience need to go into films like this understanding, okay, don't take all of the historical information for granted. It might not be a perfect representation. You need to use your brain, understand that this was made for entertainment.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know. So just God, I loved it. And one more thing I want to touch on with this film, and God, I failed to keep this one short too, and I apologize, but sorry, not sorry.
It
Uh,
sounds like a very big movie.
it's such a good movie, and there's so
So, I mean,
there's
I don't think there's any
there's
way to be
not there's
concise
not
about it.
yeah, to do it justice, you got to talk about all this.
Yeah.
Mhm. One other thing I love is that the post credits scene at the end of the movie is the character double checking her name real quick. Of course, it's not easy to pull up. Of course, it's not going to be in what I already have up, and I have to actually do a little bit more clicking to actually get her. God, um, these things can never be easy.
Of course not.
This is so frustrating. I'm so sorry. Like, I hate it when it's like I need this one detail and then I can't find it, and I'm just like, what is the character's name? What's the character's name? What's the character's name? It's killing me. This is killing me. This is killing me. This is killing me. All right, I don't want to bore our listeners, so I'm just going to talk about the character. I'm so sorry. My brain is just blanking right now, but so this character who is one of the is one of the Ogoje, and she is kind of this like spiritual leader, and she's the one who delivered Nawi when Nanisca gave birth to her. She does this ceremony at the end of the film to honor the women among them who fell in battle, and she lists the names of the women who died, and then the last one that she says is Brianna, and that was to honor Breonna Taylor. And I was just like,
Yeah.
my heart, like I saw that and my jaw dropped. I was just like, is that what I think that was? And then like I looked it up and it was, and I was just like, chills, like just
Man.
beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Like, and again, speaking to like there's more than one way to fight, and it's like with issues of police brutality, and especially with Black women being killed. Breonna Taylor like did not do anything wrong. She was literally just murdered. And the fact that like, she worked in emergency services, that's a way to fight. That's a way to do good in the world and to be a badass. And she deserves so much better. And just getting to see that acknowledged in this film about women empowerment, and especially Black women's empowerment, and then allude to this current issue as well, and as an extension of the violence that has been done to Black people and Black women specifically for hundreds of years, was just, I think, a very powerful way to end this film. So I was just like, oh, rock on. It was good.
That's very
So
cool.
I love this film. Like I just
I want to as Keith says, I want to piggyback off of a couple
Please
things,
do.
a couple
Please
things
do.
you just said, but also a couple of things that were in your introduction.
Yeah.
Because me and Justin were talking about it the other day when he got it. So you mentioned Chelsea Manning. So
Yes.
but Tim McLean, he said in his opinion, a good one would have been Norma Ray.
Oh no, absolutely.
If you're going to do whistleblowers,
I picked some people,
I know they're
but there's
topical.
so many.
No, I know you picked a lot of topical ones so that people could get in.
Exactly. Yes.
And we're expanding as we do this. But Norma Ray, I actually knew the woman who Norma Ray was based on. She's from Roanoke Rapids. Her name was Crystal Lee Sutton. She grew up with my mother. I went out to lunch with her and her daughter a few times when they were down there. They changed some things for Norma Ray. They made her cuter and have more of a sex life, and be more unambiguously straight, which in real life she was not. And it was 1970s.
Of course. Yeah.
I understand that it was the 1970s, but it still makes me angry. You quit it with your bisexual erasure.
Well, the thing is, if they
Yeah.
had done it realistically, they would have outed her against her will. She wanted to.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
She
That's fair.
wanted to stay in the closet. I mean,
Okay,
I think.
that
I
I
think she's
understand.
bisexual. But
Rescinded, but
yeah, she was a
yeah.
nice lady.
Mhm.
But also Karen Silkwood. There's a great movie about her, Silkwood, with Meryl. Is it Meryl Streep?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's incredible in that movie. And that was horrible. The stuff she exposed about like uranium and all this kind of shit, and it
Oh yeah.
Oh
killed her.
God, yeah.
And then the last one would be the most famous to public that it's in a movie is Aaron Brockovich, who Aaron Brockovich in the
Yeah.
movie is kind of like, oh yeah, Julia Roberts, he's fighting for well, but you see the real Aaron Brockovich talking because she has come out,
She's a
done some
badass.
yeah, she's done some
Mhm.
activism in the areas that I follow and lately, and she's no Julia Roberts. She's I mean she's a force of nature, knows what she's talking about. I
I
do
love
think
forces of nature.
I mean I do
This is where Mondo Heather would cut in and say, "Oh, you mean she doesn't eat babies?"
does she eat babies?
Aaron Brockovich, no. Heather is of the opinion that both Julia Roberts and Carly Simon, do secretly eat babies.
Well, if you follow the Hollywood Trail and get down the rabbit hole, I mean I've
Oh
Yeah.
my God. No, we're not going.
I haven't heard their names. Well, I have heard Julia Roberts' name in that, yes. I haven't heard their names a lot, but the ones I have heard, nothing surprises me.
with
Nothing
Heather,
surprises
that's
me anymore either.
basically just based on her dislike of those
Yeah.
particular people.
Well, and it's a
Yeah.
lot of those people really are, people like Lady Gaga and Katy Perry, they really are into nefarious shit. I mean, they're I'm not going to elaborate or exaggerate, but I know enough to know that they're not on our side. That they were Hillary supporters to the end, and
Wow.
that alone says volumes to me, about what a woman's character, because I
Mm.
love women.
I have feelings about that entire situation that I'm not even going to get started on, but we'll
I
talk
know.
later.
We will.
We'll talk
Uh,
later.
I think we're mostly on the same page about it. So yeah, so those were just some ones that came to mind. I'm not gonna do Echo. I was gonna do Echo. Everyone watching this is like, oh no. Um, I'm not gonna do
God.
Echo because of I think really compared to most of these movies, it's really not that important in the big
Mm.
picture.
It's
Uh,
just really cool.
in the here and now, it is important because it's
Hmm.
important that Marvel's doing it of all places while they're
Yeah.
kind of on the decline, that they're trying to get adult again and do representation, but
Yeah.
of differently abled people, but also
Woo.
representation of street level people like they did in Daredevil and Jessica Jones, and they're
Yes.
not shying
That's
away
good.
from the violence. So I'll just say my quick thing about Echo is, um, I think it's wrongfully hated. It's hated for all the wrong reasons. And
Hmm.
I don't mean it. I haven't read any fan bros say directly. I'm sure they have. I hate it because she's a woman and she's deaf and she's banning. But
How can you be a woman and be deaf? God, like I just
and have a
Yeah.
metal leg. But
And be a
Yeah.
martial artist.
my only complaint about this, my only
How can
complaint
you
about
be more than one thing?
exactly.